Hi everyone, I welcome you all to this BOOMI session. I think this is session number 9. Uh, so in the last session, we basically started building a process which was reading the data from file, right? And it was inserting the data into the database. Which database did we use? Which database did we use while doing the integration?
Oracle database.
Very nice. We used Oracle database. Okay. And while doing this whole process, right, we created a new component, right? So far we like uh, until a session which happened last time, we were aware about only one component, which is process. But in the last session, we came across few more components, right, which helped us to achieve the required business functionality. Can anybody recall which is that component that helps in representing the data's metadata or the structure of the data? Which is that component?
Profile.
Profile. Very nice. So profile helps in representing the data, right? And how many types of profiles do we have in BOOMI?
5.
We have 5 types of profile. Very nice.
XML, yeah. XML.
Those are XML,
XML.
JSON.
JSON, database, flat
Database,
file,
EDA.
EDA.
That's it.
Very nice. So we have 5 types of profiles. Any other component you can recall apart from
Map.
profiles?
Map.
Very nice. Map is another component. So is there a shape with the name map, or is there a component with the name map?
Both.
We have both. We have shape as well as component, and map shape internally references a map component, right?
Component.
So what do we do in the map component?
We'll map the fields.
Yes,
from
we do
source
the
to target.
very nice. We do the mapping, or you can say we do the transformations from
Yeah,
source to target.
from one profile to another.
Very nice. So now one thing you have to remember is when you're developing this map component, right, having source and target both are mandatory, which means, see, sometimes you will get a requirement wherein you just need a target. Yeah, you just need, as you start working in real time, you just need a target profile, and you want to just do hard coded values, or you want to just hard code the values, and you will think that I don't need the source. Okay, but it's not going to work that way. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is, other day we developed this process, right? So the profile which we have on the right hand side, is it a XML profile, JSON profile, database profile? Which one is that?
Database profile.
The database profile, right?
Hmm.
So now we did some mappings, right, for employee ID, employee name, location. But for notice period, did we do any mapping? No, right? We didn't do. So sometimes let's say by default, all across the globe, here organization notice period is, let's say, 60 days. So you can go here and there is an option called a set default value, and you can say 60. Okay. Now for notice period, do we have any mapping? No, right?
No.
We do not have any mapping. So we are just hard coding this. So in this case, what is going to happen is, regardless of the location of the employee, you will end up passing 60 as the 60 days as the notice period, right? Or for example, let's say there may be some records where you do not get location. Okay, so you want to set some default value. Let's say my default value is US. Okay, what does that mean? Now there is a slight difference between the one default value which we set at the last for the notice period and the default value we set for the location. And what is the difference? The difference is the default values come into picture when the mappings does not return any value, right? So for example, I have a source, right? So other day we created some file. If you see here, this was the file we were working on. Okay, what is the location over here? US, right? But let's say there is no location, right? In that case, what is going to happen? The default value will come into the picture. So the default value only comes into the picture when the mapping does not return any specific value. But if you see the next one, right, though you're setting the default value, but it never had any kind of mapping. So it's more like hard coding the value of notice period to 60 days. So in BOOMI, sometimes we might need to set some default values. We might need to hard code things. So this is how we can do it. We can go here and we have an option set default value. Another thing which I was trying to tell you is there might be few cases, very few cases where you see, okay, on the target, I just need to hard code values. I don't need anything from the source. So you might feel that I can build the process without source, or I can configure my map component without source, which is not possible. I mean, you definitely need to have the source profile. It may happen that you do not do any mapping from the source profile, but configuring a source profile is mandatory. And another important note is the source profile, whatever you configure, and the data which is coming into this map component needs to be in sync with each other, which means the document which is coming to the map component as an input and the source profile you have configured should be aligned with each other, right? So let's say the data which is coming is of students, but here you're creating a profile of employees. It will give you a very common error. The source data does not match the format or something like that. So that means the data which you're passing is not aligned with the format which you have configured in the source section of your map component. This is a very common error you will get. Sometimes you will not realize that you are not passing the right document, or you have not configured the right format for the source profile, right? I hope you understand how to set the default values. Yes. If you want to remove it, how you can remove it? You can go here, just delete and say okay. Yes, everything got removed. Fine. So I think we are good so far, right? So these are the few things we have seen. I think by now you know how to test the process, how to get into the full screen, how to arrange. So if I have something like this, if I want to bring it back into some presentable format, how can I do that?
We can arrange.
We can hit on arrange. So I'll say save then arrange, and it gets arranged properly, right? So we know component, what is a need of star shape of no data type, why we have try catch, why we have a disconnector, map, database connector. Okay, so we'll move ahead. Okay, so our requirement originally was, what was our original requirement? Our original requirement was if the location is US, let's say notice period is 15 days, and anything apart from US, let's say the notice period is 60 days. There can be multiple ways to achieve it. Okay, there can be multiple ways to achieve it, and we'll talk about one. So first of all, let's say when I get the data, I want to check if the location is present or not, and if the location is not present, I don't want to process such kind of data. Okay, what I'm saying is when I'm pulling the employee data, if the location is missing, I just want to filter out that data. I do not want to process the data. So what do I need to do for that? Okay, forget about BOOMI. If you have worked in any programming language, what will you try to do?
Decision.
So what you will do is, after the data is read, you will try to validate the value of location. If the value of the location is not present, you will try to kind of bypass that data. And if the value of location is present, you will try to process that data. Yes or no? So whenever we want to check certain conditions, what is the typical construct we use in any programming language? For checking the conditions, what do we have in any programming language?
Decision making statement.
Very nice.
Like if else, yeah.
Very nice. We have some decision making statements. And those decision making statements are like, you can have if else construct. Sometimes you use switch case
For
also, right?
while.
So for while basically you typically use for looping, right? Looping and decision making together. But if you just want to do a decision making, you typically use if else or switch case, right? These are the two things we use. Now in BOOMI, so far we have not written any kind of code, right? So it does not mean that you never write any code. Okay, So there are two ways. Sometimes you can achieve the same thing without coding also. Okay, but it might be a little lengthy. And if you want, if you're comfortable with the coding, you can go with the coding based approach also, where you typically write the code either in the JavaScript, Groovy script, and now they have given the support or full-fledged support for XSLT also. Okay, when I say all these things, you don't need to panic. Okay, some people, whenever they start hearing about programming, they start get panic. So maximum, if you know JavaScript also, 97 to 98% of the things will be resolved. Okay, you won't need to worry about it. Okay, so having a good idea about JavaScript will be important if you want to really excel in it. And when I say you might not know how to write the code completely, but if you know the syntax, you can take the help of Google and come up with the snippets. Okay, and what I will do is I'll give you some of the snippets which are very commonly used. For example, like finding the length of the string, how to find a substring, how to use a replace function. So we will give you notes where you will have the snippet of how to use those. So at one place you will find those snippets. So as a trainee, you don't need to struggle too much, right? But it will be a good practice if you go and research yourself also. You will end up learning something new. Okay, but I'll provide you that snippets. So now what we have to do is uh, we have to go and address this. So now in BOOMI, whenever we want to make some decision, okay, whenever we want to write some conditions and according to the condition, we want to decide our flow of control or flow of execution, then we have a decision shape in BOOMI. We have a decision shape in BOOMI, which helps to evaluate the data against some conditions. Yeah, and decide the flow of execution. The decision shape has two possible outcomes. What are those? True branch and false branch. If the condition is true, then the control goes to
True branch.
True branch. And if the condition is false, it will go to the false branch. Another important note is, this is very important. At any given time, for a specific document, the control will either go to true or false branch. Okay, for at any given time for a specific document, the control will either go to true or false branch. Right now, the example which we are dealing with, how many documents do we have?
One.
Okay, right now the situation which we are dealing with has got only one document, and that document looks like this, right? So what I'm trying to say is, the process which we developed last time, okay, we are still at that process, but right now I want to make a decision. I want to write a condition, and the condition is, if the location of the employee is missing, okay, if the location data is missing, I do not want to process that data because that might not hold any value. It might happen that I might want to define certain rules, or I want to do certain mappings based on that location. And if the location itself is missing, I want to discard that, right? So where should I take the decision? After a star shape, after a try catch shape, after a disk shape, after a map shape, after the database connector shape? I mean, where should I take the decision?
After disk.
Any other answers from anyone, guys? Anyone feels that you have a different answer? Where should I take the decision?
After map shape. Because after that.
Okay, so the decision ideally should be taken right after disconnector, because once you do the mapping, you can definitely take a decision there also before inserting the data into the database. But why to do the mapping for a document which itself does not qualify for processing? Because the data will be present right after the disk shape itself, right? Why should I do the transformation if the record is not a, or if the data is not the legitimate one, right? So what I'll do is I'll try to add a shape which is capable of doing a decision making. And what is the name of that shape, guys? Which helps us in decision making. What is the name of that shape? Who is that shape? Okay. Anyone has an answer? What is the name of the shape? If we go back to the,
Decision.
we have a decision shape, right? I wrote here decision shape in BOOMI helps to evaluate the data against some conditions and decide the flow of execution. So in which category should this decision shape fall? Execute category, logic category, or connect category?
Logic.
Logic.
Okay, let's go to logic. Do we find a decision shape over here? Yes, you are absolutely correct. Why decision shape? Because it has the ability to make certain decisions and control the flow of execution. And if you remember, I told you all those shapes which has a tendency to control the flow of execution will fall into the decision shape. So I go here and I drag and drop a decision shape. Okay, what does this warning symbol indicate?
We need to configure that shape.
We need to configure that shape. Some configurations are missing. So I will drag and drop over here. Can you see two branches coming out? True and false. Okay. Now this true branch should be connected to this, right? Okay. That decision you can take whether the true branch will get connected or the false branch will get connected. That depends on the condition you write. So my condition is, so which element do I need to check, guys?
Location.
Location. And that location element, from where can I access it?
XML profile.
XML profile. If you remember, the data which I'm reading from here is represented with the help of a profile, right?
Yes.
And which profile is that? XML profile. Yes or no? In the last session, we created that profile, right? So I'll go here. It is asking me the first value. So I'll go to choose. Choose means I have to select. So what is the type? If you go and see, there is a drop down where you will see a lot of types. Yeah. Connector call, cross reference lookup, current data, date time. So there are so many options. Right now, your element which you want to evaluate can be accessed with the help of a profile element. Okay. Which type of profile is it going to be?
XML.
Is everyone following? I see only one or two people answering. Other folks, Sai, Tarun, Veer, guys, are you following or you want me to repeat?
Yeah, I'm following.
Yeah, Sumita, I'm following.
Right. So the data which we right now need to evaluate is a XML format of data. So I will change the profile type to XML. Right. So do I need to create a new profile or do I need to find out the existing profile?
Existing profile.
So if I need to find out because profile is already created, right? If you create new one, there is no error, but it does not make sense, right? Because components are reusable entities, right? So it can be reused in the same process. It can be reused in different processes also. So I'll go here and I'll get into the folder which we have been working. So which is that folder?
April 2021 batch.
Okay.
XML.
So this was the one which we created other day. And here is the location, right? Just make sure the data which you're going to send and the profile you have created, both are in sync with each other. If let's say later on you decided to change the structure of the data, you should also make the changes in the profile. A lot of times what happens is people started with the structure And now they think that I should modify the structure, but they forget to make the corresponding changes in the profile, and things do not work because of that. So please take care of that. Then this is like operand, and then there is an operator. What are the operators we have? Equal to, not equal to, what is that? So if it is not equal to null, null means how do we check? We just keep it like empty over here in BOOMI. This is how it is checked. If it is not equal to empty, how do we check empty? In the second parameter, I'm giving a static, and in the static, I'm not populating anything. In the first parameter, I had chosen that profile element. Second element configuration is comparison. I'm saying if it is not equal to what? If it is not equal to null, or I mean, this is how we check empty right now. Okay, if it is not equal to empty, then I want my mappings to work. If it is equal to empty, I just want that document to come out. I may not do anything with that document. Okay, I may not do anything with that document. I just want that to come out over here. So let me ask you what, let me try to run the document which we have right now. For that document, what is the location? The document which you are trying to read right now, what is the location for the document?
Disk or mission.
The location is US. Yes or no? This is yes. So if you see here, everything gets executed. The control is going to the true branch. Why the control is going to the true branch?
Because condition is satisfying. It is not null.
Very nice. Because the condition is satisfying. How the condition is satisfying? If you come here, you see the document. Right, the location was US, right? So if it is not equal to empty, control goes to the true branch. Otherwise, the control might have come to the false branch, but since the condition is satisfying, the control is going to the true branch. It works absolutely fine. Okay, now let's take another scenario. I'll create one more file. We can a BOOMI process read more than one file? A lot of people are confused about it, and I get this as a very common question from a lot of people.
Yes.
We can read it. Okay, so now we have two files. So what you can do is, guys, when you're working on real-time processes, right? A lot of people, what do they do is they keep on doing the development, right? They will configure all the components and then nothing will work. And they will get into a helpless mode where they'll not understand what went wrong. So my recommendation to you is, until you develop that good amount of expertise, right? Always make a habit to test your process in chunks. What do I mean by that is, now instead of one file, I want to run with two files, right? So instead of running the whole process in one single go, make a habit of running your processor in small chunks. I have seen a lot of developers working in even my company. What do? They will develop everything. They will say nothing is working, and they will spend a lot of time in debugging. If you start testing it in small pieces, you will first of all be very confident, right? That whatever I have built is going to work, and the amount of time you spend in overall development will be also getting reduced, right? So how can you test it? So you remove that connection and just put a stop shape, right? So this process, will it get executed? This whole part, right, starting from the decision shape, it will not get executed. Why? Because it is not connected with the
start data.
Yeah, it is not connected with the start shape. So if for anything to execute, that has to be connected with the start shape directly or indirectly, right? So I just want to go and test it out. Okay, it works absolutely fine. We come to the stop shape. So this time, how many documents do you see, guys?
Two documents.
Why two documents?
In the disk operation, you have given star, right? So it is taking all the documents in that folder.
Absolutely. So we have two files. We can look at the files. The first file, which is represented by the first document, is the one having the name Sumit and the location is US. And the second file, which is represented by the second document, is the one having the name Amit but does not have a location. Now, this is a little different from any other traditional tool. In traditional tools, what happens is the complete data is represented with the help of a single variable or a single payload. But here, you may have the complete data set broken down in the form of different documents. And that's where, when I was giving the definition of the document, I told it is not exactly as the payload, because in payload will typically hold your the complete data which has to be processed or the complete request. Here in the document representation, you may have the complete request data being split into multiple documents also, right? So if anybody asks you, using a disconnector, can I read multiple files at a time? You have an answer. Yes, we can definitely read it, right? And again, it will depend on the condition also. So for example, if you go here, what is the file filter? Star means you are using wildcard. Anything which is there in this directory will be read. So for example, if I write employee 101 star, how many files will be read, guys?
One.
Only one, right? Let's check it out. Okay, so the process runs completely fine. We go to the stop shape. We see shape source data. How many files were read? How many documents were created? Only one, right? Because the criteria which you define for reading the file, right, that mentioned the file filter has to be employee 101 star. So it will look for the files which starts with this name. And that's why we were able to read only one file. And right now I'm again changing it back to the wildcard character, that is asterisk, so that all the files are read. Okay. Now it is important to understand the behavior of the documents. Okay, this is very, very important. Now, a lot of people feel, a lot of people have an assumption that when we are reading these two files, which resulted into two documents, how is the flow of execution going to be? Except Sushmita and Priyanka, I want people to answer. Okay, because you people already have some idea. So what do you think should be the behavior? I mean, I read two files which resulted into two documents. So that is going to happen over here, right? After that, what do you think should be the behavior? First of all, the first document will execute, and after that, second document will execute, or both the documents execute at once. What do you think will be the
Both
behavior?
execute at once.
Okay. So now, any other answers from anyone?
One by one, it should happen.
Okay. So the note is the default behavior of BOOMI documents is, what is the default behavior of the, they move in chunks, or I mean, they move in batches, which means a shape is executed or multiple documents act on the shape, on the specific shape simultaneously. Okay, so multiple documents act on the shape simultaneously. These have a tendency to move in batches. A lot of people assume, okay, a lot of people believe that, when we read the documents, so let's say the moment we read, it resulted into 5 documents or anything more than one. So in that case, those 2 documents or 5 documents or 100 documents will move on the subsequent shape at once. So how it's going to work in this case is, we got 2 documents. Those 2 documents will come over here on the decision shape, right? And then those 2 documents will act on this decision shape. First of all, first document will get executed on the decision shape. Let's say the output is true. Then the second document will be executed. Let's say the output is false. Then in that case, what is going to happen is, once all the documents are executed, then it is decided which all documents will go to the true branch, which all documents will go to the false branch. It is not necessary that all the documents will go to the one branch. If you remember, I wrote a condition over here Okay, these all notes are very, very important. Here I wrote at any given time for a specific document, the control will go to the true or false branch. But in this case, do we have a single document or multiple documents? When I'm reading more than one employee file, we have one document or more than one? We have more than one, right?
More
We have
than
true,
one.
right? So when we have more than one, it may happen that few documents go to the true branch and few document goes to the false branch. So interviewer might try to confuse you. Can it ever happen that both true and false branch of a decision shape get executed? What do you think? Is it possible?
No.
It is possible only when you have more than one document and first document or maybe any of those document qualifies for the true branch and other document qualifies for the false branch. Are you guys understanding? What I'm saying is we have,
Your voice is breaking, so I'm not sure if it's only for me.
okay, is it happening for everyone?
It's clear for
No,
me.
it's clear for us.
Okay, I'll repeat anyhow. So what I'm saying is when we are reading the data is represented in the form of documents, right? Another important note I told is documents move in chunks or it moves in batches. These will act on a shape simultaneously. So now when it acts on a shape simultaneously, let's say the shape is a decision shape, all the documents individually will be evaluated and it will be decided which all documents qualify for the true branch and which all documents qualify for the false branch. Now it may happen that some of the documents qualify for the true branch, whereas rest of them qualify for the false branch. In that shape, we may end up in a scenario where both the branches, true branch and false branch, gets executed. But then it will not happen for the same document. It will happen for the different documents. For a specific document, the control will either go to true or false. But when we have bunch of documents, it may happen that few documents are going to the true branch, whereas few rest of them are going to the false branch. And whenever such kind of scenario happen, you have to understand another note. True branch always gets executed before the false branch. True branch always gets executed before the false branch. Now let us see what I'm speaking. Okay, let's say I don't want this to come into the picture right now. If I don't want this to execute and I just want to see the things until here, so can I bring a stop shape over here? Yes.
Yes.
All right, let me run it. So even when you're doing the development, your approach has to be like this. Don't configure everything and then test it. Okay, I'm adding one shape, I'm testing it out. So that way you keep on doing the unit testing and you end up making a code which is kind of more robust rather than building everything in one shot, right? So can you see that green color symbol, a green color bold symbol over here in the true branch as well as on the false branch? Yes.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Both the branches are executed.
That means both the branches are getting executed. So we will traverse from here. We started with a star shape of no data type. What kind of document is that going to produce?
Empty document.
So if you come here, you see shape source data, you have an empty document. Okay. Now after that control goes to the disconnector. What type of document will we have, guys?
Empty document.
Again, empty document. Why empty document? Because try catch shape does not alter your document. It passes through the same document. Now after disconnector, how many documents should we have? Manjot, what do you think? How many documents will we have? After disconnector, which is trying to read the files from the directory, how many documents do you feel we will have? Guys, anybody is not following, please tell me, because I'm repeating this all for you. Otherwise, I can complete in single shot also. Please take the pain of unmuting yourself and answer. Okay. Even if there is some disturbance, that is fine. But I need to understand if you guys are following or not.
Should get 2, right?
2,
Two, right?
yeah, 2.
2. So can we see 2? Yes. Now the control will come to the decision shape. So those two documents will act on the decision shape. So if we see that the document data, the first document data has got location as US. The second document data does not have the location. So how many qualifies for true and how many qualifies for false?
For true and one for false.
One for true, one for false. And please understand this, regardless of the order of the documents, whichever document qualifies for true will get executed first, and then the control will come to the false. Yes. So this is not parallel. First, the complete true branch will execute, and then only the control will come to the false. How can you check that? How can you prove that? So if you go here, which logs are these?
Process logs.
These are called as process logs.
logs.
Yes. In this process logs, can you see what is happening? We started with the start shape. After that, there is a try catch shape. After that, there is a connector. And after that, there is a decision shape. Decision shape executing with how many documents? 2, right?
2 documents.
So that means it is not moving one after another. This is moving in chunks. Is that correct? If it was moving one after other, then it will say executing decision shape with how many documents? With 1 document, right? It is executing with 2 documents. Now you go to next. You see decision shape executed in 29 seconds, then stop shape. But here you do not get the clarity whether the true branch got executed first or the false branch got executed first, because in the neither you have a logic in true nor you have in false, right? How do we prove that? There is a simple way to prove that. I go into the true, and there is a property continue processing other execution paths, which means you want to stop the flow for this branch, but you do not want to let other execution path to get to be stopped from the execution. So I will uncheck this. I will uncheck this. What does it do now? Whenever this shape will encounter or will be encountered, the flow of execution will stop. Whenever this shape will be encountered, the flow of execution will stop, right? I'll
So
run
when
it.
I check that checkbox, and if I don't connect the stop sign, of course we are not going to connect the stop sign to the XML mapping, right? So how does that work?
Come again. What is your question?
If we don't check the checkbox, what will happen?
Okay. So
Or
right now we didn't check
if
that,
we
right?
check the checkbox.
Okay. If you check that checkbox, so you will understand the difference. You observe the execution now. Do you see any difference?
Yes, it
False
stopped.
branch
The
is
false branch is not
executed.
executed.
The difference is the control never went to the false, right? You had 2 documents coming here. One document qualified for true, another qualified for false. But what is now the stop shape? What is the line written below that? What is the description? End and return, right? And what is there by default? End and continue. End and continue means only for that particular branch we are saying end, but other branches can still continue. When you say end and return means it is like aborting the process. You cannot execute further. So now there are 2 things which I'm trying to cover with this example. One is that true is getting executed before false. If that was not the case, then you might have seen the false also getting executed, right? If these were parallel, then also you might have seen false getting executed, isn't it? Because whatever theory I'm speaking, there should be an evidence for that, right? Then only you will remember it forever or for a longer time. I'm saying true gets executed before false. These are not in parallel. And this proves that there were 2 documents. One document qualified for true, and the document which qualified for true started executing first. It encountered a stop shape which is saying stop and return. Means Do not let any other thing to execute. That is why, though there was a document which qualified for the false branch, never got executed. And this property of the stop shape is sometimes used to stop the flow of execution. This is a very, very small property, but has an adverse impact on your flow of execution. There is a certification question, or there is an exercise in the during your certification where they will have a stop shift which does not, which where this is not checked, and people will think other things will execute, but that will not execute until and unless this flag is checked. And that is why stop shape is coming under which category? Logic category, because it has the ability to alter the flow of execution. Okay, the default value of this flag is always checked, but you can uncheck it also if you want that if this condition is true, then only I should do the next thing. Otherwise, I don't want to do the next thing, right? Any of such scenarios you come across, then you can, if you want to see like at least if one document goes to the true branch, then only the control go to the false branch. Okay, so this property might be helpful. Anyone who is not following things so far, this is very, very important, guys. It's not about employee location, but it is more about understanding the flow of execution. Anyone who is not following so far? Okay, if you're following, let us go here and
So
let us, yeah.
Yeah, so if you remove the decision and if you keep the stop sign next to that database, the connector, and if you check the checkbox like end and continue, that will not make any sense, right? Is that correct?
After this database, you're saying, and
No,
you're saying
right
this one.
before the decision. Remove the decision and keep the.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, so remove the decision and keep the stop sign next to that connector.
Just 1 minute. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So now this is what we started with, right? I mean, what do you want to do? You want to do end and you want to
So
check
if
this
you
flag?
when
Or
it says end, yeah, when it says end and continue, so what happens? Like, I mean,
so right now in this case, it's not going to make any difference. But you, as you move ahead, you will see there will not be only one path. You will have flows where you will have multiple paths. Okay, and then it will impact. I'll revisit
yeah.
this. For this
So
case, it will
now,
not make any difference.
yes, the checkbox will not make any difference here, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'll come back to this.
Sumit, 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to know, like, see, if you give, okay, no, I understand. Sorry.
Okay. Now let's move on. I added another file. Okay. And I add the file name is employee 103. The data is like this. Okay. Now you tell me how many documents come to the true branch, how many documents come to the false branch.
Only one comes and rest will not come because it doesn't give location. You have not given location.
So in true, first of all, tell me with this configuration, will both the branches get executed, true and false?
Yes.
Yes. So how many documents will come to the true branch and how many of them will be coming to the false branch?
One will come to
1 to
true.
true and 2 to false.
Okay, 1 to true, 2 to false. Let's check it out. People will always be confused with this document. So we started here in the first, we will see decision shape source data. What does shape source data mean?
Shape logs.
Yeah, of course, this is shape log. Shape source data means what is coming as an input to
Okay,
this
sir.
shape? How many documents? Three.
Three.
Three. I go to the true branch. Why do I see only one document?
Because in this location you have not, in the third one you have not given location as US. No location
Absolutely
has
correct.
been.
Only out of these three documents, one had a location. That's why one is going to true and rest two are going to false. Now, in this case, for the decision shape, are both branches getting executed or not? True and false. Yes, but that is not happening for the same document. That is happening for different documents, isn't it? Any questions, guys? Okay, another scenario. If I go here and I, let's say, uncheck this, what is going to happen? How many documents will come to true branch and how many documents will come to the false branch?
One document for true and two documents for false.
Any other answers from anyone? Guys, feel free to, interact. Then only we'll follow the sessions more clearly. If you have some other answer, please feel free to tell, okay, you might be right. Okay, let's run it. I will straight away jump over here. One document to the true branch will come to the false branch, two documents. No difference because you are writing end return to the false, right? And it is anyhow the last, right? Whenever anything is last, it has to anyhow return, right? That end return will only make difference when something in the middle is saying end return instead of end and continue, right? Something which is anyhow at the last, even if you say end and continue, it will not continue, right? It will stop there. So that is why this end and return was making a difference in the behavior when we uncheck this. Okay, now I uncheck this. Now what will be the behavior? How many documents in true and how many documents in false?
True one
One
document,
in true and nothing in false.
nothing in false. False will not get executed.
Any other answers from anyone? Sai Manikanta, Sai Tarun, Sushev, Shravani, any other answers from anyone? Ramya? All feel the same. Let's run it. Okay, there is one in true, which we can see over here, nothing in false, right? Why? Because it is saying end and return. And we by now very clearly know that true branch gets executed first and then the false branch, right? And if in true we are stopping the flow of execution, control will never go to the false branch. I think we are very much clear with that, right? Okay. Now, even before I get into this whole stuff, I want to try one more thing. Okay, which is very, very important. Now we had employee 1, 2, 3. In real time, uh, let's say we talk about a company like Infosys, okay, which may have lakhs of employees. So is it good practice to have lakhs of files? Let's say every day employee data gets synced from one system to another. It might happen, employee might go to the personal details and they might update their, address or phone number or email ID. Okay, maybe their emergency contact number. And you want to make sure every day we should have one sync running to sync the employees data from one system to another. Okay, and let's say we have lakhs of employees, right? So one option is that we will have lakhs of files, or else in one single file I may have the complete data, right? Or maybe I may have a single file for one geographical location also. Yes. So now what I want to do is I want to consolidate this data. Okay, so now you tell me, this is my original file. If I want to hold multiple employees data over here, what should I do?
Different loops for employee. Have all those things copied here again and again.
So what I might need to do is, first of all, I need to have a parent element, employees. Because if you remember, I told what is the basic fundamental of an XML file, that it must have a root element, right? So now if I want to hold multiple employees data, having root element is mandatory. Now I go here and open this file. I'll copy this data. How many employees data is there right now?
3.
3. In real time, you will see these kind of files. Okay. So I'll save it as, let's say, employees.xml.
Sumit, you didn't close the parent
Yeah.
root element.
For which one?
Employees.
Okay. Very nice. So this is another rule, right? Every starting element must have a closing element, right? So whenever you are writing these files and you are new to it, you are not sure, you always take this file, right? Go to Google and type just XML validator, right? Validate XML files, make it a practice. You do it for initial few times, right? Validate, and it says no errors were found, right? That means it is a legitimate file. Okay. There are no syntactical issues right now. Okay. The one which was there, I think people helped me to get rid of that. So now this is employees.xml. This is very, very important to understand. Now I just want to read only this file. Okay. In my BOOMI process. What should do I need to make any change in the condition of the disk operation? If I go to the disk operation,
You need to
I,
give the name.
so I will make it
Name.
employees. That's all. Okay. So if I do employees, and let's say, first of all, I will again do a unit testing. Stop ship. Okay. Save it. Run it. Okay. So how many documents should be there, guys?
3.
3.
Three
Okay. We come to the stop shape. There will be one document because there was a one file. Yes, there was a single file, and you will see all the data in this file. It will not create 3 documents now. Okay. Now, another important thing. I go to the decision shape. So what do you think will be the behavior?
Same
Only
one.
one will get into and return the end and
Yep, but
to the true section.
Okay, let me make it continue. Continue. Now you tell me what will be the behavior.
To
It will
the
be
US.
the first employee,
Hmm.
and it will like if it is true, it will go to the true branch, or else it will the total document will go to the true branch.
So this is one document. Okay. Now what I told is for one document, decision shape behavior is either it will take the control to true or false. So for this single document, people assume that some part will go to true, some part will go to the false, but that's not going to happen. First of all, let's see what is the behavior. Decision shape treat one document as one data set, and for that it will either go to true or false. Now the control went to false, it never went to true. Why is that happening? So because if we go to this, okay, this is my decision shape. Hold on.
Yeah, it is rewriting. It is checking everything.
No, hold on. Let me come back here. We read the data. Now there is there some problem? I mean, first of all, did you modify your profiles? I told you one important thing. Whenever you are making a change in the data format, shouldn't you change the profile also?
We should change.
We should change, right? What I'm trying to say is in the decision shape, you're using some profile. Is that profile created for single employee data or multiple employees data? That
Multiple.
was for single employee, right? There,
Minimum occur one, max occur one is given.
not only about min occurs, max occurs. Do you have employees right here? You have employees. Where is employees over here? Do you have employees element? No, right? So
No.
let's say I add a child element, or actually there should be a parent, but I don't have an option to add parent, which is fine for now. Let's say I will add employees. Okay, I'm adding a new element, employees. And what I'll do is I'll try to move, or else for this one, whatever was there, I'll rename this to employees. Okay. And I cannot
But
have,
here, can we input again?
yes, we can do that also.
Yeah.
We can do that also. If that looks easier to you, you can always do that. So now what I'll do is under employee, I'll try to move employee ID. Under employee, I'll try to move location. And name also, I'll try to move under. Okay. Now, does it match the structure? Employee, employee ID, location, name. And if you feel there is some problem with the order, you can do like this. Okay, you could re-import the file also, but can you see now I did not re-import, but does the structure look familiar? Is it matching it now? Guys, this brings to the same point which I told, that whenever you are making a change in the data format, corresponding change has to be made in the profile also, right? And how about employee? Employee max occur should be unbounded. What is unbounded? Means you do not have a limit, right? There can be multiple occurrences also. You are converting that into kind of an array or a collection, right? Because right now you change the format. Earlier you designed it for one employee, but now you want multiple employees data to be supported. So that's why I'm changing the structure. Employees, within that employee, within employee you have an employee ID, the name, location, and this employee can have multiple occurrences. Yes. Will, so here when I go here, I have to rewrite the condition, because right now what you see, what is the path? Employee. Now your path should start from employee or employees.
Employees.
So I'll go here and I will just rewrite this condition. That's all. So you see your path change or not? Yes. So please make sure you make corresponding changes. Now I save it and I run it again. Now when you run it again, the behavior again got changed. Everything is going to true and nothing is going to false. Why it is happening so? There is a single document which came to the decision shape. And for the single document, can both the branches get executed? No, both the branches will not execute for a single document. The behavior of the decision shape is it will just check the occurrence of the first element. That's all. If the first element qualifies for true, then the whole document will go to the true. If the first document, I mean, if the first instance of the employee in the document qualifies for false, the whole document will go to the false. This decision shape will not check all the occurrences of an element. It will only check the first occurrence. It does not do the iteration. It will check only the first occurrence. And accordingly, it will route the document either to the true branch or the false branch. But that behavior might not be correct for my requirement. So how do we make sure that we get the right behavior? We will talk about it. So first of all, you should understand that we can read multiple files. If we were reading multiple files, this decision shape was working as expected. Now we started reading the data for multiple employees from a single file. When I did so, I had to change the profile because the format got changed. When the format got changed, decision shape is making the decision, but it is making the decision as per the first occurrence. So let's alter the file. Let me make this as empty. Yeah, save it and I'll go back and I'll run it. The whole document is going to the false. Why? Because the first occurrence of the employee element has an empty location. Yes, and that's why it is routing the whole document to the false branch. So the point I'm trying to make is the default behavior of the decision shape is that if we have multiple occurrences of some element, it will check only for the first occurrence, and accordingly it will make a decision. Any questions, guys, from anyone?
No.
No, right? So we'll continue from here where we will see how do we correct the behavior. Okay, then we'll go about that location and all. I hope this gives you some idea about the decision shape, some idea about, about how the documents are moving from one shape to another. Any questions from anyone? All right, so we'll wind it up. Let's catch up same time. The link remains same. Okay, so let's catch up tomorrow.
Sumit,
Mhm.
please share me a video.